It all began in 1999 when we received our first unsolicited email, what is known as a spam, a strange proposition that was supposed to make us very rich if we accept to help an unknown sender. Intrigued, interested, maybe, we kept it. And since we have collected, archived, studied, and traced back more than 4,000 email spam internet fraud, focusing on advanced free fraud messages called scams.
What is a scam? Written in the first person and structured like monologues, a scam often tricks famous individuals' identity, posing as the children or wives of politician or notorious dictator. They claim to possess a large sum of money that she needs to transfer urgently. A substantial percentage of this money is promised to the one who accepts to help with this task, a stranger designated as the only trustworthy person around. Usually, scams base themselves on a plausible reality, rooted in news or real events, referring to present-time conflicts. I'm sure you have received some of those emails, beginning with, I'm the son of Gaddafi, my father left me a bank account with $30 million, I need someone to help me bring back that money, or I'm the daughter or the ex-wife of an African leader, I want to apologize to disturb you, but my husband left me with 70 million, etc.
These frauds have been surprisingly efficient to the extent that thousands of people still get conned each year and hundreds of millions of dollars are transferred. Even we are thinking about $1.2 billion transferred every year. At first, we started collecting these scams without really knowing why. We just kept them in our computer in a special file entitled How to Become Rich. Progressively, we wonder what representation and method of acknowledged production they contain, what system of corruption, but also intimacy, greed, desire, and trust they reveal. Why do we connect, answer, and form a relationship through internet with people we have never met and we will never meet? What to do with all those scams, with this strange data that usually goes directly to our trash? How to transform it into images, make this immaterial email visible.
We began looking at those scams more carefully. Scams are built in a very precise way, following a narrative dealing with drama, conspiracy, disease. A narrative close to traditional stories and Hollywood films. Those narratives produced by scam are part of a literary tradition, an old genre known as the Spanish prisoner in the 16th century, then the Jerusalem letters that appear in France just after the French Revolution at the end of the 18th century. The Jerusalem letters are very similar to the scam of today. They told stories of lords and their servants fleeing the events of the French Revolution, forced to abandon their valuable belongings and looking to retrieve this treasure with the help of the recipient, selected personally and seemingly the only remaining trustworthy person.
The name originates from the fact that at that time, most of the con artists pretending to be servants were jailed near Paris in the Bicêtre jailhouse, partially located in Rue de Jérusalem. In his book, The Thieves, Les Voleurs, 1833, Eugène François Vidocq stripped down the mechanics by which this riddle worked. According to him, the letters played on the nostalgia of the ancient regime, a sentiment felt by some after the French Revolution. This type of scam seems to appear at specific historical moments and contexts that allow certain form to arise and prosper.
In an attempt to make their scam convincing and believable to the victims, the scammers use information and fact from recent political, economic, religious, environmental, and financial events. They choose various countries to locate their story, usually in destinations where corruption seems plausible for them. So they focus on Africa, Asia, Russia, or the Arab world. For instance, war in Iraq, recent revolutions in the Arab world, or the fall of dictators in Africa have been used as new material. As such, these scams draw a map of contemporary conflicts wars, and revolution, a symptom of the state of the world, and in a certain way suggest an alternative manner of writing a country or a region's history. We have always been interested in parallel stories kept secret as a form of resistance to the dominant and official history. In a way, those scams question the system of representation, the construction of imaginaries, or the writing of history that were always the center of our work.
This alternative historiography made by the theft of our emails can be traced progressively alongside a post-colonial geography based on corruption and dynamics between North and South, economic division and perception of one of the other. It constructs an imaginary of corruption, a mapping of this imaginary. We studied more carefully 3 prolific years of intense scamming, 2005, 2008, and 2010. For each year, we select 200 emails published in atlases. We then used the location and countries that appear in this selection of over 200 emails per year to identify the geographic itineraries, the trajectories of those mails, the latitude and longitude of which represent different events around the world. We materialize those itineraries with steel bands that give shape to a globe and a physical reality to the virtual network, as well as a chronicle of events tabulated over a year of scam. The sculptures show very clearly the country where the scam locate their fraud and where they believe corruption to be plausible, showing a representation that we have of the others and of ourselves.
After giving materiality to this email, we also thought of a way to embody them, use them as a literary material, give a physicality to this imaginary, to this virtuality, through the body of actors. We've asked 38 non-professional actors living in Beirut, but coming from the country from where the scam is supposed to originate, to embody those scams, to incarnate the story it contains, to give a face, a voice to this virtual text, this imaginary without images. Can we regard those scams as micro-narratives, instances of fiction, maybe even charged with emotion, or anecdotal accounts in the etymological sense of story kept secret? Here are some examples.
Dear friend, greetings. This email might surprise you, as you might not receive such an email every day. I would like first to introduce myself. My name is Mrs. Viviane Salem, a wife of a lovely husband named Nassim Salem, and the mother of 3 children. The oldest one is Hussam. I had once a big dream, growing old in the eyes of Hussam. The other dream was Wasim. He was 12 years old. And my youngest dream was 6 years old, named Myrna. I had a warm family. I loved them a lot. Everything passed away a year ago in a moment. When the Americans hit everything, just destroy my entire family in a moment. I suddenly hide my 3 children, freezing bodies. I tried a lot to warm them, but they passed away. Everything was destroyed in a moment. Just for oil. Everything faded. My entire family faded. What I'm trying to do now is surviving. I now live with my parents. I work in a hospital. I'm trying to surviving by remembering my lovely family, my warm family. Is my lovely husband leaving me $29.5 million by a financial security company? I can't have the son, only if a partner helps me. You can help me. by having 30% of the sum after transforming the sum to your own fund. If you believe me, if you want to help a mother lost her family, help me. Thank you. Sorry for bothering you. This is Vivian Salim.
I'm writing this mail to you with a great sorrow in my heart. It will come as a surprise to you because you don't know me. But due to unwanted nature of my situation, please bear with me. I'm 22 years old. My name is Esther George Jacobi. I'm the only child and a daughter of the Honorable George Jacobi, the Minister of Tourism and Commerce. He worked under the President of Liberia, Charles Taylor. He was accused of using his position and smuggling gold from the country of Lofi. Of course, it was a political vendetta.
Dear sir, it's quite unusual to have this kind of business proposal, mostly to someone you've not come across before. I will introduce myself. My name is Colonel George Ibe of the Ghanaian Armed Forces, currently serving in Darfur.
Dear friend, I know this message will come to you as a surprise, coming from a stranger you have never met or known, and has decided to put his faith and life in your hands. I must admit, my agitation is real, and my only bond is my words in this proposal. My name is Prince Harun Hanis. I am the son of the late Chief of Defense Staff, General Assoumani Hanis.
My dear friends, my name is Ahad Sesnitsky. I was a personal assistant to Mr. Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who was an owner of the largest oil company in Russia, Yukos. His company was ruined by Mr. Vladimir Putin.
Dear, my name is Jalila Trabulsi. I'm the sister of Leila Trabulsi, wife of the former Tunisian president, Zain al-Abidin Ben Ali, who was in power until the revolution forced him away in January 14, 2011.
We presented those videos in two different ways. In an installation called A Letter Can Always Reach Its Destination, standing up side by side, the character rotate on a screen at the back of the room. Progressively, one of them step out, a face emerges from the group, and an individual tells a story, shifting from one reality to the other. Stepping out on the lineup, the character transparently appears on the second screen in front of the first, like a hologram. The superposed screen generates spectral presence, uncertain and virtuous.
We also made another installation with the same actors called The Rumors of the World. Faces and voices of the actors are spread out onto 23 screens and 100 loudspeakers, waving a network, a visual and virtual meshwork that creates an invasive rumor. These rumors start to fade only when the visitor approaches the screen, so as to create a shot-counter-shot. Only at this distance does the story incarnated by a singular individual reveal itself. The scams, sent out usually in a blind and collective manner, become individually directed between a subject and another, a story told to someone specific. From country and event to the other, face and voice to the next, these strange tales make up the rumors of our world and how we want to listen and engage with all what is happening around us.
As with theater, a kind of endorsement emerges between the setups and the audience, where the spectator subscribes to the actor's performance rather than reality. For the span of an instant, the monologue seems credible until the character mentions money, thus dissolving faith and blurring the limit between truth and lies, fiction and documentary. The question is always, Why do we believe, answer, get addicted to those narratives? How does that echo the narrative and artistic forms generated by internet, but also the strange faiths that make us believe in images and story in a more general way? How does this system of beliefs and trust function?
An encounter, very strange encounter, will help us understand the way the scammers work to make all that possible. Among the non-professional actors who were cast to film these two installations with us, Fidel, a man living in Lebanon that you saw previously, appeared to know perfectly well the scams that we had asked him to memorize. We asked him why, how come. After much hesitations, Fidel explained that he had been a scammer in Nigeria in the past, before coming to Lebanon. He accepted to speak about the different steps scammers undertake to bite their victim.
For you to have a good film, produced, the characters have to be very good also, because no producer or director would want to give out a film that is not, worthwhile, so that people, when they are watching it, they will feel, oh, this is real. Don't tell me this is a movie. So every move will have to keep the victim in suspense. So it's really another kind of movie. It's another kind of movie that you cannot really explain it. It's a never-ending story. The story about it does not end, because there are whole lots of people who are very much good in what they do. So, and this scam job, you have to be smart. For you to convince someone you've not seen, for you to convince someone you don't know, for you to convince someone that you might not even see, but we pay whole lots of money to you, you have to be smart. So it's a magical movie. Sometimes even the guys who do the scam business don't believe themselves that this is happening. Sometimes they stay together and they begin to wonder, begin to look at themselves. Is it happening?
From the manner of speech to accessories and the choice of location, everything is staged almost like a film in the making. Those groups share information, play roles, produce fictions in a convincing way with a good and efficient script.
We can spend every little money we have just to get something that would make you be attractive. Someone could get a gold watch for $10,000. And if you see my Rolex for $10,000 and I'm wearing a shoe of maybe $15,000, which is from Giorgio Armani, and I meet with you one-on-one in a cafe, and I tell you this is the business I do, I'm a scammer, definitely you're going to fall into my nest.
Impossible to ignore, yet difficult to represent. The victim who has lost a lot of money prefers to remain anonymous, hidden. He or she is a true ghost of this research. In an unlikely coincidence, a victim appears in our entourage, someone we know very well. This victim firmly chooses to block out any advice, repeating, "No, my situation is different, it's not the same." Just like a love story or an addiction, for her it's different. Just like a number of scam victims, this person believes that she has been chosen by a stranger who writes her from far away because she's the only trustworthy person.
Maybe you wonder, how is it possible to fall for it? To answer, those men might be wanting to be the chosen one, or maybe to be greedy, to get trapped, manipulated, and not able to go back. Maybe to feel guilty and wanting to compensate for a certain colonial behavior, to help someone that seems to need it. But not only, it is also a true desire to believe. This belief doesn't seem to be a lack of knowledge or of ignorance. In a conversation with us in a book we did edited by Omar Khalif, Jacques Rancière speaks about the fact that we live in a system of very low-level belief. Belief in those scams is, for him, in a way, a low-intensity belief system to maintain the feeling that we are neither indifferent or nor desperate. We act according to our belief, to suspend our distrust as a necessary compensation, a way to open up to the world, to be in a certain emotional state. The desire to believe would be a desire to maintain a certain system of affects, of emotions, of a relationship to the other, to the world, and to take part in this story.
One of the strangest things we found in our research and linked to belief is a forum called 419 Scam Biter, where we find people who want to scam the scammers. A group of individuals who call themselves scam biters or scam beater, originate mainly from the US, have decided to fight these scams. Their strategy assumes a role play that aims to scam the scammer. They answer these emails and play along in order to deceive them more easily. These exchanges can last for months sometimes, their primary objective being to waste the scammer's time. Due to the severe punitive measures of Law 419 in Nigeria especially, the scammers operate from internet cafe. So a waste of time is also a waste of money. The stratagem also includes things tricking them to execute various actions, at times bizarre and dreadful. The game can be very cruel, blurring the line of credulity, abuse, power, and capital, developing a strange link that shifts every role in the story.
The scam beater asks the scammer for proof of good faith or motivation, a more or less scripted routine that starts usually with a questionnaire, then a dressing up costume, can ask to be dressed as a clown, a rock star, followed by a specific demand to produce an object. For example, the scammer must paint the portrait of a dog, sculpt a wooden computer keyboard, remake a Monty Python sketch, or get his arm tattooed. It is unclear whether the scammer accepts this humiliation or physical abuse upon himself or hires someone in exchange for money. But very strangely, a lot of those demands are linked to the artwork. As an echo to art history, to the status of the artwork, its production, circulation, and diffusion today. The different collected material, videos, photographs, paintings, sculpture, performances, are called trophies by the scam beaters and are exhibited in a trophy room. On the 419 Eater Forum, for example, evoking a strange virtual museum. Here is our installation called the Trophy Room, inspired by the setup of Lina Bobardi in Sao Paulo for a museum without walls of André Malraux. Regardless of the level of knowledge or information concerning these practices, strangely, the will to believe always remains.
During the filming of the two installations, a letter can always reach its destination and the rumor of the words, and meeting with various actors, all non-professional, we met individuals with incredible faith. They are predominant immigrants from all over the world who have no choice but to leave their country in a temporary exile, sometimes seeking refuge in Lebanon or a job, aspiring for a better life. Some are often laborers or domestic workers. Some receive social insurance, others don't. Some are the children of these workers. Born undocumented in Lebanon, they struggle nonetheless to obtain legal papers and move around freely. With the exception of Fidel, none of them were scammers. Yet, their story encountered the scammers' invented narrative complete with twist, conflict, economical crisis, migratory flows. Their story are more unbelievable than the scams themselves. In their own way, they embody the feeling of displacement, on mobility triggered by the scam, and live the constant shift between cultures, religions, identities, and temporalities. They are captive of an extraterritoriality dimension that echoes the virtual world, globalized through the internet. The project we made is called It's All Real, showing videos with some of those and their hope and dreams for a better life.
اسمي تمارا جبري، عمري 29 سنة، من العراق بغداد. اجيت على لبنان من 2010. فتنا سياحة، ناخد إقامة على شهر، وبس تخلص هيدي الإقامة بنضل هيك. نحن هلأ illegal staying هون. معي ورقة متحدة، مقدمين لجوء، وبعد البروسيس الطويلة نرفع ملفنا على كندا، وهلأ نحن ناطرين البروسيس تخلص تنسافر على كندا.
Tamara, who was playing Vivian Salim previously, was a young Iraqi doctor. Now she works in a crystal therapy center in Lebanon, curing drug addicts through prayer and the invocation of Christ. Her smile is unsettling as she constantly repeats that she is happy, refusing to acknowledge her victim status and hanging onto her belief. She presents her face as a new identity, in opposition with the scientific approach she defended not long ago in Iraq. Evoking a link between her fictitious presence in the video as an actress and her real one, she claims that life is like a movie. Acting is living, having lived, and suffering. Acting isn't acting.
Two teenagers, Omar and Yunus, are illegal immigrants, undocumented, born in Lebanon, to African fathers and Asian mothers, dreaming of elsewhere. They are part of a generation that question its filiation, transmission, origin, identity, and position. Through a split screen, two parallel screens like an interval, the installation reflects their frozen mobility, isolation, and solitude, as well as their aspiration.
When I was around 18 years old, I actually went to jail for 19 days because of a paper dispute, actually. And it wasn't really my fault. It was I just had a few paper issues, actually. And because of that, and I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't commit a crime, I didn't steal, I didn't do anything, I didn't do drugs. I had to stay in jail for 19 days because of simple paper issues. And that's coming from a person who was actually born in Lebanon. So that's kind of weird. I mean, if you go outside, you wouldn't see somebody like who was born in the USA and have issues with papers. They would actually treat him with some kind of dignity. So I find that that's not fair to not only me, but to a lot of people who are born here just like me and have to go through these stuff mostly.
I feel stuck here because sometimes I see myself that I'm losing hope, that there's nothing to do here and there's no way for me to go out. So that's how I feel myself stuck here in Lebanon. Because it's actually hard for me to travel or to go anywhere else, not being able to afford the money, the ticket, or the place to live, or anything else. The papers, documents that I need to travel are actually very hard for me. That's why I feel myself stuck here in Lebanon.
I would say that home is a place where a lot of factors play. Culture, being comfortable, having supportive people around you. Many things play into that factor. But basically, I think at the end of the day, what would make some place or some certain area called home would be love. Because where you feel accepted and where do you feel loved, that's basically home. Because that's where you can go back after a long day of whatever it is, whatever you're going through, and feel comfortable. That's where I think home is.
Basically, right now, I'm focusing to go see my mother. That's my most important thing. Because I'm growing up, and my mother is actually growing up too. So my biggest fear is that I might not make it in time. I might not be able to be with her at the same time, maybe if it was late or I wasn't there all the time.
Adib, a Syrian national who recently fled his country and arrived in Lebanon, like more than 1.5 million of his fellow countrymen, doesn't act. He couldn't speak. He just looked at the camera, mute, staring helplessly. His gaze becomes a language, his only way of speaking.
Sasha also chooses not to speak. Born to a Russian mother and Nigerian father, Sasha lives in Lebanon and is torn between her dual origins. As a dancer, she expresses these pulls in a strange choreography. She seemed dislocated, dismembered, all in an agitated movement that seemed to attempt recomposing the body back, finding a rhythm. Like the cycle of life, which is made of collapses and revival, she falls, gets back up, disperses herself, then finds the strength to reassemble again.
Beyond the scams, the victims, scammers, scam beaters, actors are linked involuntarily, tracing a network, a virtual constellation of individual trajectories, strange and poetic encounters, various history kept secret, a journey of hope. The lines of credibility are blurred, and every role seems to be able to shift in this story. All of our research questions the way we want to be involved in our world today and think about our present politically and artistically, being more and more aware of the fact that, as Guy Debord said, in a topsy-turvy world, the true is a moment of the false. Thank you.